wrestling is on the rise for sure. Wrestling is more popular now than it's been in a long, long time, and it's only continuing to get popular. And I think that even between now and WrestleMania 40, it's going to grow even more. I also think that this merger with TKO, we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's really possible here.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.
So, Chris, I'd love to get into some things when it comes to wrestling. A big buzzword right now in wrestling, I feel, is mainstream. And everyone asks, like, is this guy mainstream or is that guy mainstream? I'm curious what your thoughts are if you think wrestling, because we mentioned how hot it is wrestling just starting to be mainstream again?
I don't know if wrestling will ever fully be mainstream. I think that there's a few things, right? Like I think that lots of people know what the DX crotch chop is, or a lot of people know like Austin 316, but just because those things have made their way into the, general zeitgeist doesn't like most people that do the crotch chop couldn't name the members of DX. Most people that know an Austin 316 shirt have no idea about the promo and Jake the Snake and everything like that. So I think the idea of wrestling might be mainstream, but I don't think wrestling itself will currently. I don't think wrestling right now is mainstream where like a random person on the street could tell you who the champion is, or if a random person on the street would even recognize, 5 people that are in the WWE. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. In the same way that like Game of Thrones was insanely popular, but there's still a whole bunch of people that have no idea the names of any of the characters or anything like that.
Right.
So I think wrestling is on the rise for sure. Wrestling is more popular now than it's been in a long, long time, and it's only continuing to get popular. And I think that even between now and WrestleMania 40, it's going to grow even more. I also think that this merger with TKO, we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's really possible here. Like UFC has become this huge, huge name in MMA and in sports in general. And I feel like if they can take just a little bit of that, sprinkle it on WWE, I think that WWE, maybe it'll start to, be talked about on Sports Center frequently. I don't know, but I just feel like they know what they're doing with this merger here. And I feel like it's only going to benefit us as fans.
Yeah, it certainly has such a fresh feel to it, WWE specifically. Like, I haven't seen it in years, and I go back and, watch shows from maybe like 2012, 11, 13, and it's just a completely different feel just from a production standpoint alone. You look at some of the stuff with like the Bloodline storyline, for example, which that was one of the best things that I've seen watching wrestling in a long time myself, stories told, but the ebbs and flow that it went through and everything, it was incredible.
It's almost like wrestling needed a reset after the pandemic. Like,
yeah,
there was a lot of great stuff that happened during 2020 and 2021 that no one will ever go back and want to rewatch. Like, no one's watching highlights before the Thunderdome of like the empty arena shows. Like, it's almost sad to see that, because wrestling is all about that crowd reaction, and watching wrestling without a crowd's like watching a comedy show without a crowd there to laugh along. So I almost think it needed this reset. And then the timing after that of Vince kind of stepping aside, Triple H fully stepping in, we're starting now, I feel like, to really, in WWE at least, really see what Triple H having his fingerprints on the product looks like.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.